I kind of exist in the middle between music and tech in a way, as in I use the latter to publish myself essentially. What I do is I write about music essentially online. And I guess in lots of ways what I do is analogous to the kind of things that specialist radio shows do, or niche magazines or zines or something like that. I write about music that I like, and that's my whole thing. And I've been doing that for about 8 years now. And it's built up a bit of a reputation over that period as a place to go if you're looking to find out about new music. So where all the guys here are kind of providing the platforms, you still need to make sense of the data and curate essentially like what comes out of that as well for the public. So that's the main thing that I do, is really present new music in contexts for an audience who are hungry for it. Yeah, essentially.
And you have a radio show as well, don't you?
We just started the radio show about a month ago. Yeah. So, but that's what happens essentially. You start writing about music, and then you get known for something, and then after that, you get opportunities where you might do much better. You get opportunities where you might, So I started a radio show because I have I wouldn't say influence, but a reputation as somebody who knows about these things, or expertise of some kind. So so these opportunities present themselves, and I've been doing it for 8 years. So these kind of things happen occasionally, that kind of way. So
you were telling me when we were talking on the phone that for example, some MP3s and the way they were 8 years ago, now you can just upload or download something in a flash of an eye. How has all that changed in the way you work?
Yeah, I guess like when I started, there really was no such thing as an Irish music industry outside of the small, like what you would expect, the major labels, small independent labels, and the music tech stuff wasn't really existing. And similarly, when I essentially started a WordPress blog to write about music, and WordPress enabled me to do that. But what I found was that at that time, it was very much under the radar. So I was writing about music that labels really didn't know you were writing about, or if they did, they were small independent labels. Like the whole idea is essentially what I'm doing is writing about music that people haven't really heard yet, and the idea is to get it out there so that people who might be interested in it hear it. And at that time, there was no such thing as YouTube. Really, YouTube was only taken off after that, and so it's been really interesting to watch that journey that music tech has been on, in the way that music is disseminated out there. And now we're in a situation where it's actually it's pretty smart, and things work pretty well in terms of getting your music out there. You can use a dozen different types of platforms, dozen more every day, but really, what people react to ultimately is a song, and that's where I come in terms of sharing that song with people, whether it's appears as an MP3, which is back in the day I used to have to post loads of MP3s on my site, and of course when you're starting off, and when you're somebody like myself who just kind of starts something as a hobby, you don't really know what you're getting yourself in for. So you get into a situation where you end up talking to IMRO about the fact that you should be paying licenses every year, but you're also in a situation where the whole point of music blogs in the first place was to be a hobby, to be something that was kind of a share thing amongst friends and people that trust you. So thankfully that whole situation was kind of resolved by SoundCloud, because what happened with SoundCloud was SoundCloud rises in popularity, and then all of a sudden people kind of go, oh yeah, I don't have to host MP3s anymore. It's actually better for everyone, because not only are there like hundreds of MP3s of the same song, copies of it lying around different servers around the world that people can also access anytime they want. The artist is also more in control now, which is where you get stuff like statistics for a song. So, for example, I put up a song from an Irish band called Ghost Estates last week, and I think they had, last time I checked, in 5 days they had 13,000 plays of my SoundCloud, and like they're a small enough band based in Dublin. And what was interesting is that I can go in and see where those stats are coming from and who's listening to it, and then I share that with the band so that when they come to decide about tours or where they should be releasing, where they should be looking to, I don't know, talking to labels exactly. Where those people are coming from, and all these kind of tools, they all give you that empowerment, to give you that statistics so you can kind of make those decisions yourself. There was a really famous example, I think, a famous example to me that I remember was a band from, I think they were from Denmark, Asteroids Galaxy Tour, and they uploaded one of their songs or their album to BitTorrent. And what happened with that was they had got the tracking software on it so that they were able to see where it was being downloaded from. And as a result, they booked a tour based along where people downloaded it. Simple stuff, but like clever. And that's what it's all about. All these platforms give people the opportunity to really make smart decisions. And when you're a band, you're now at a position where you can actually do that. And I'm one part of that in terms of I get the song out there to lots of people. There are also, in terms of the music industry part of it, there are a lot of labels and A&R people who look at the website and look for hot new bands and all that kind of stuff. So that's part of what I do. And then again, like next week even, we're putting on a gig on Monday night in the Twisted Pepper with a couple of different bands. And the reason we're doing that is because there are people coming over from the Great Escape Festival in Brighton to see some of these bands as well. So it kind of makes sense to do it. So that's the extra cog in what I've been doing for the last while.
Okay, I mean, listening to some of the speakers before you, I see there could be some areas of synergy. Do you see any of that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I haven't done a lot with any of the guys. I know Cathal pretty well, but a lot of it, like honestly, a lot of what I do is down to curating a very particular set of tastes. So where something might fit into that, it really depends on. So a band like Nialler9 are beyond what I'd be interested in, and also the level that I'd be even talking about, because a lot of it's about new music. But I know I did feature like the fan footage stuff with The Academic, a young band from Mullingar, and that made sense because there were a lot of people there to see them, and there was great video from it. Here's a band who were all about the live experience, and so they had great footage of all of that stuff as well. So it kind of makes sense to do that, yeah.
So where do you find your bands?
Oh, well, listen, I get my music absolutely everywhere. It could be a friend, it could be SoundCloud, could be the millions of emails I get every day. Anywhere, really. I mean, there are endless amount of sources, and that's kind of...
But you have to listen to it all, don't you?
Yeah, I spend a lot of my day listening to music. That's basically what I do, yeah.
And do you like that?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking earlier on about passion. Like, passion is madness, but the whole point about it, it's not mad if it's something you're really into. You just do it. So that's kind of the point, like we all do this because we have to. And I just don't question it. I listen to lots of music every day. That's what I do.
So mum saying get off your damn iPod just never really worked, and now it's your business and career.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
So, I mean, and again, in terms of, you've written a blog and it's out there. Where do you see yourself going? Are you going to continue on that line, or where do you see yourself going?
Well, I really enjoyed that process, and I really enjoyed the sharing of all that, and I've been doing it for 8 years, but I have seen, it has been changing, especially in the last couple of years for me, in terms of, like there are different platforms you can do. Like I have a radio show, as you mentioned, and then I write for a newspaper and stuff like that. So there are different ways of bringing that across, and I'll start putting on gigs and stuff like that. I don't really know is the ultimate answer where I'm going, but I think in the last few years I've definitely been learning more about what it is to be a part of the industry and where I fit in. Because when I started, I didn't really feel like I was part of it because there was no such thing as a music blogger in Ireland, that kind of way. So you have to kind of feel your way around, and like there are music sites out there and all that kind of stuff, but you can compete in different ways essentially what I do, it's a niche audience and it's a niche platform, but for certain people, whether it's labels or A&R or just people who want to listen to new music, the whole point is that I'm there for them in a way.
So would it be your full-time job?
Yeah, kind of. I basically, I started doing web design out of college, and then I started a portfolio website, and after that, I got a job. So I was like, what do I do with this portfolio website? So I started my blog, and that's what happened. And essentially, that through my reputation as a blogger, all the work I've done the last 8 years has come from that. So essentially, yeah, it's like a calling card in a way. So it's kind of everything I've done the last 8 years has been through that reputation. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know where it's gone yet, but it's fascinating to be a part of it, and like, and be participating in all this kind of new music stuff and the tech space and all that as well. So,
But today you call yourself happy.
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, in fairness, you are one of those examples where you don't necessarily need that business plan. That if you just follow your
and
heart.
like I said, it's a niche platform, it's a niche audience. So there is not necessarily something I can grow, and because it's essentially based on the taste of one person, and I think that's kind of nice in a way to have that person-to-person relationship in a way with your music and how you get your music. And you know, the other part of it is, like, obviously I called my site after myself, and if I had known 8 years later, I always gave out about John Bon Jovi for calling his band Bon Jovi. Like, you know, it's that kind of idea. It's like, why the hell did I call myself Nialler9? You know, I should have called it something else so I get other people in. But I think that's part of the appeal about the website, is that it is one person.
Because you probably would have got Cloud9 back then.
Yeah, probably could have. Yeah, but that's the thing. You know, it's about the reason I have a reputation is because I'm the one person that does this, and if I got other people involved, I feel like that would maybe dilute that a little bit too much. Now there are ways of doing it where you can get people like involved in video projects and stuff like that. So that's something I'm looking at, and then events, and I have a couple of things lined up. So yeah, it's you know, it's loose, but it also means you can work fast when something comes up that you're like, okay, I can really do that. So yeah.
Any lessons over the last 8 years?
Well, I guess the main thing is really like knowing your industry. When I started, I didn't really know anything about the music industry, so I've really been learning about it, and that's the main thing. And I think in the last 2 or 3 years, I've really felt, you know, because the site has a really good reputation internationally as well. So when you go to festivals like South by Southwest and you meet loads of people, and they're aware of what you do, then you realise that, hold on, I'm not just this guy who writes about music from your home all the time. No, there are repercussions to what you do. So really just knowing about networking, meeting people, all those kind of basic things that you think are one-on-one, but when you start as a self-starter and you're not intending with any grand plan, I kind of wish I had learned that a bit faster and got to know people a bit quicker. Like now I know plenty of people, and that's great, but I think just mainly like knowing I was even part of an industry was the biggest thing, because I wasn't, because there was no other me's for a long time who were trying to, you know, do this and, you know, make some money out of it as well. So yeah, I'd say that's the main thing, know your industry.
Well, as somebody, another famous saying, and I can't remember who said it, if you don't like the world you're living in, create your own future. And I think that's exactly what Niall did. Listen, a big cheers for Niall. Thank you very much indeed.